Harris says she's ready to take over the presidency if necessary. That and a bunch of other lies. We're going to cover that here today on Speechless, Cut for Time. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Speechless, Cut for Time. When I cover different stories that I couldn't necessarily get to on my radio show, maybe they'll make it in the next one, but we'll see about that. Everybody, my name is Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois. Thank you so much for tuning in. And before we get to the big story of today, I want to please ask that you guys smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring those notification bells, set them to all because, ScrewTube tries to make it so that these messages don't get out to as many people as they should. And well, as share this with your friends. Put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, anything like that. And leave me a comment. What do you think about anything that I'm saying? Did I miss something? What's your thoughts? Leave it in the comments and I'll try to my best to reply. But let's get right on into it. So Kamala Harris, vice president, we know the kindergarten candidate, the one that always tries to just dumb things down so that everybody can hear. She says things like, well, Ukraine is a country. Russia is a country, and Russia invaded Ukraine. And we're like, we get it. We're not as dumb as you think we are, or you're a lot dumber than we thought you were. Well, I always kind of knew it, but the voters. But let's get right into it. One of the lowest rated vice presidents we've ever had in terms of her. She goes on and does this interview with the Daily Mail in which she's asked a few different questions. And so we're going to cover these right here. Let me remove that extra camera. Okay. So let's just see these questions and we're going to refute some of the lies. Then you got to wait till the end because you got to hear what she says about if Joe Biden can't serve. It's fascinating, but let's hear it.
One issue for voters in the upcoming election is President Biden's age. An AP poll recently showed that 77% of Americans and 69% of Democrats believe he's too old for a second term. Do you think he's ready to serve as president until he's 86? And someone who works with him, have you seen changes in recent years?
Oldest president in United States history, just so you know.
First of all, let me say that our president has been an extraordinary leader.
Extraordinarily bad.
Who has accomplished things that previous presidents hoped and dreamed and promised they would do and did not.
Oh, this will be rich. Let's hear
Remember
what she says.
Remember that whole thing about Infrastructure Week? Joe Biden, under his leadership and because of his leadership, passed the most substantial infrastructure law in recent American history.
So when she says substantial, what she means is most expensive, costed you the most, and actually had very little to do with infrastructure. I know she talks about it a little bit, but let's just rehash this for a quick second so that you can know the lies she tells as and before she tells them. So the infrastructure bill that she's talking about is the one that came about almost 2 years ago, I think now, $1.85 trillion Build Back Better bill is what it was called. And so while it does have a little bit to do with infrastructure in terms of what everybody knows infrastructure as, roads, bridges, buildings, things like that, here's other things that it also took steps to do. So lower the cost of prescription drugs by allowing Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices, reduce out-of-pocket copays, establish a $35 out-of-pocket maximum for insulin, create a new $2,000 out-of-pocket limit for seniors' expenses in Medicare Part D, pay for senior home assistance. And there's other ones. I'm going to get to those, but I want to go through. So those were all like Medicare, Medicaid ones. Okay. I'm not against some of those ideas. In fact, actually, one of them established a $35 out-of-pocket maximum, so a price ceiling on insulin. That was actually something that Donald Trump did when he was in office. But on day one, as Biden said he was going to repeal everything Trump did, that's what he did on day one of his presidency. And then the price for insulin skyrocketed. People started complaining. And then Biden was like, oh, man, I have to do something about this. And so he reinstated the Trump policy. But again, that has nothing to do with infrastructure. That has nothing to do with infrastructure. It has everything to do with Medicare, Medicaid, which should have been a different bill. Then there's other things. Cap child care expenses at the maximum of 7% of income for families making less than $300,000 a year. Reduce more than 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse emissions with a goal of cutting them by at least 50% in 2030. Universal preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds. A 1-year extension of the expanded child tax credit. Expand utility and clean energy tax credits. Increase Pell Grants by $550. Expand Obamacare to additional states. Once again, what does any of this have to do with infrastructure? You have things about greenhouse gas emissions. That's a climate change bill. You have capping childcare expenses and universal preschool for 3 and 4-year-olds. What the heck? Reduce health insurance costs for lower and middle class participants who get health coverage on Obamacare exchanges. Fund Medicare to pay for the cost of hearing aids, and more and more and more. Once again, some of these policies I might not be against, but here's what they did when it comes to this bill. No, it was not an infrastructure bill. It included some things about roads, bridges, buildings, everything like that. Traditional infrastructure. What else it did is it made them so that they were just trying to argue, well, this has to do with infrastructure because look, if you can't drop your kid off at universal pre-K, then you can't get to work on the roads and bridges that we need to. No, you're drawing. What they were the guy in the back room in the secret room tying the pieces of red twine together to try to make the arguments about why it's infrastructure when it's not. And that's what Kamala is trying to say. Oh, well, we passed this infrastructure bill. Really what it was a gun to the heads of Republicans so that what they could do is go into the media and say, hey, these Republicans should not be reelected because they are not going to pass this infrastructure bill to repair your roads, bridges, and everything like that. When in reality, what they did is they pork barreled a bunch of crap leftist policy and just random policy that was not actually able to be debated on because they push it into these massive bills, release it at the last second so nobody has time to actually read it, and then, again, put the metaphorical gun to the head of opposition politicians because it's skeezy and scummy politics. But she wants to claim that it was Biden being a great leader. No, it wasn't. Absolutely. It was not a great leader would allow all of these points to be heavily debated on. Seriously. All right, let's see what else Kamala has to say in this interview. And trust me, it gets spicy.
Which is transformative in terms of what it is currently in the process of doing to build back up America's infrastructure, whether it be roads and bridges, or ensuring that all families have access to affordable high-speed internet, to what we must do to make sure that people have the ability to just get where they need to go, and we will create the jobs in the process. We have created under Joe Biden's leadership over 800,000 manufacturing jobs right here in the United States.
Okay, so that's another lie. So this is actually so the claim is that let's actually let her finish real quick, but there's a lie in here.
We have created 13 million new jobs under Joe Biden's leadership. So yes, I see him every day. A substantial amount of time we spend together is in the Oval Office.
Okay, so she says 13 million new jobs. And so here's the thing. So I'm just going to call it a lie. It's more of just misleading, heavily misleading, because while there are that many jobs in the marketplace, they actually misconstrue creation with resurrection, because these were jobs that were lost during COVID times and eliminated during COVID times because they were deemed, quote unquote, non-essential. And then now they are coming back. And so this is actually from the House Budget Committee. Nearly 72% of all job gains since 2021 were simply jobs that were being recovered from the pandemic, not new job creation. In fact, when looking at today's economy compared to the pre-pandemic one, employment is only up by about 3.7 million. On the other hand, compare that, prior to the pandemic, job creation under President Trump was 6.7 million, 3 million more jobs than the current president. So here's what they're really doing is they mislead you, the American public. They say it's infrastructure, but it's not. It's not infrastructure, or 90% of it isn't infrastructure. They say it's job creation, but 72% of it, according to the House Budget Committee, is not creation, it's resurrection. And it's not because of Biden. It's simply a lot of it is rebound from us actually reopening the country. And now there's even talk that they're going to shut everything down again. So what's going to happen then? Are you losing jobs then? Think about it. Think about it. Let's finish off some of this interview and see what else Kamala has to say, because it's quite entertaining so far.
Where I see how his ability to understand issues and weave through complex issues in a way that no one else can to make smart and important decisions on behalf of the American people have played out. And so I will say to you that I think the American people ultimately want to know that their president delivers and Joe Biden delivers.
Question about the president's age often go hand in hand with questions about how you would step in the role, if necessary. Do you feel prepared for that possibility? And serving as vice president, prepared?
I want to go back real quick to what she just said right at the end of this.
Their president delivers, and Joe Biden delivers.
Joe Biden delivers. Okay, Joe Biden delivers. I listed all those lies she said about what he's quote unquote delivered on. And just to conclude that, before we get on to the next question, I just want to be clear. I wouldn't trust Joe Biden to deliver me a pizza, let alone a stable economy or rational policy, based on everything you've said. Because when you look into it, everything you just said was not a delivery. It was a lack thereof.
Question about the president's age often go hand in hand with questions about how you would step in the role, if necessary. Do you feel prepared for that possibility? And serving as vice president prepared you for that job?
Yes.
And
There's the kindergarten thing right there. Like he was kind of expecting more, and she just goes, yes. Then he follows up.
how would you describe that process?
Well, first of all, I'm answering your hypothetical. But Joe Biden's going to be fine. So that is not going to come to.
How could she be so sure? He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. This is why I say that it could be a weekend at Bernie's election. They're going to keep him pumped full of everything, even on life support, simply to try to get him to crawl through that election in 2024. And that's why I'm skeptical if it'll work for the Democrats or if they're going to try to install somebody else. Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments.
To fruition. But let us also understand that every vice president understands that when they take the oath, that they must be very clear about the responsibility they may have to take over the job of being president. I am no different.
I am no different. Take over, too. Not assume the oath. Interesting choice of words with take over. I'm going to take over. I don't know. Could be. I'll give the benefit of the doubt to an extent by qualifying and saying could have just been the pop of the second snap second word choice decision, or it could be serious. Take over. I'm going to take over as president. Interesting. And while she also did qualify that Joe Biden's going to be just fine, how does she know that? Serious question. How does she know that? And this is a final thing that I'd like to say. This is why when Republicans say, and I've even said on this show before that I think Joe Biden should be impeached. I think that there is a lot of evidence to prove of criminal behavior. And obviously we know it's vague, but it says, but the Constitution says a president can be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. And so, yes, I do think that Joe Biden should be impeached, but this is what we're going to get. This is what we're going to get. Somebody who thinks that Joe Biden has delivered. What has Joe Biden delivered to you? Serious question. They always ask right before a presidential election, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And look, I get it. COVID was 4 years ago. You might be better simply because of the rebound from COVID. But did Joe Biden have anything to do with that? And has Joe Biden made your life worse in any way? What has Joe Biden delivered to you? Serious question. Let me know in the comments. What has Joe Biden delivered to you? And in the meantime, while I wait for those responses, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, bring that notification bell, set it to all, comment, obviously answering that question, and share it with your friends. God bless you guys. God bless America. And we'll be back next time with more Speechless. Cut for time.